This one mistake far too many resellers make can cost you a ton of money. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk about a big mistake quite a few people make these days, especially those new and just starting off in reselling. Now, one philosophy is to sell a lot of different things individually as opposed to selling them in lots. Now, that only works in certain situations, in certain cases. You can't do that all the time. This happens most often for items that people aren't sure on. They don't know the area and things along that line. That's a big problem because if you're just throwing them up and splitting them up across into multiple lots instead of one group lot or just a couple of group lots, you could literally be giving away the profits for those items. And I say that because what happens in most of the cases, if you don't know a price, and let's say you bought a lot of 100 different cards for some assortment. The 100 cards are all similar, they're all tied together, and you may assume that selling each one of those individually, say for $5 or $10, may be the best route on it, and see what happens. You have an option to do that, or you could sell in a bunch of little lots, or a bunch of big lots, or one giant lot. Now, the best way to do this lot of 100 cards depends on the cards themselves and the value. If you don't look into them enough and you just assume that selling them separately will net you the most money, you could be in for a rude awakening when someone cherry picks your listings. Basically, someone will just buy the ones that are worth money and you're stuck with the rest of the listings. Most of the items that you buy in big bulk like this, usually there's not a ton of items in those lots that are worth a fortune. So there may only be one or two that's worth good money, and if you sell those individually, the rest of the items may be worth almost nothing and won't have much of a chance to sell. So if you're splitting stuff up like that, you're opening yourself up for someone to cherry pick your store, buy the valuables, and leave you with a whole bunch of junk in your store. Now for us, I don't do stuff like that if I don't know what it is. I set the items aside until I can figure out a comparable price for it based on some sort of statistical information. I don't usually throw a price out there unless I'm fairly sure that that price is in the same range or area as most other items like that item. So I don't want to ever recommend anybody just throwing stuff up like that. Cherry pickers are out there. Even other dealers will buy your best stuff and leave you with a whole bunch of just junk in the store. With the example on the 100 cards. If, let's say, 2 or 3 of those items were good, you listed them all individually, 100 different listings, 2 or 3 items else, they're gone, and you're left with 97, 98 different items that probably won't have a high possibility of selling. Now, let's say there was 3 good cards in there with this same 100 card lot. I would have done 3 lots with 33 cards, or 34 in the last one, in each one of those lots. No one would have been able to cherry pick my store, so they would have had to have still bought the other cards. For them, it may be worth the while because they want the one specific card, and they may have another source to get rid of the other cards. That would be my take on it. Or if you are going to sell those individually, make sure you can sell the other ones in lots instead of doing individual like that. I see far too many stores that I look at that I see that they've done the exact same thing and someone has cherry-picked their sales. So one of the last stores I looked at, the same thing happened. They had a bunch of sales right after they listed a whole bunch of stuff, and then it pretty much dropped dead for a little while. And it turned out that, of course, somebody cherry-picked what they had, and all of the good items were picked out, and all that was left was the other items. So if you're not aware of what cherry picking is or the aspect of it, I cherry pick when I go out. If I'm at an estate sale or something, I will go through a collection and pick out the good stuff and leave all of the rest of it. That's why when you go to an estate sale, if you're not the first one in the door, a lot of the time, you may not get anything because someone like me came in and picked the best stuff out and then left. They left all the other stuff out there. Good example, if I go to an estate sale and let's say there's 500 45s or 500 LPs, there may only be a dozen or so that are really good ones out of there. And once I buy those, the rest of that whole lot, 500 to 1,000 records, may only be worth a couple dollars. It may only be something worth your time buying in bulk and selling in bulk. And that goes for most anything. So when you list stuff, you've got to take that into consideration, that if you list individual items out of lots, you may not get your money back after that. You may just sell the higher dollar item, boom, it's gone, and the rest of the stuff will just sit there. Now, for some people, those items that do sell may have sold for a ton of money, and you already made a fortune off of your purchase, so you may not care about the rest of the items. But again, if you're listing them, that's a lot of time and energy into something that may not sell once someone has came through and cherry-picked the whole lot. So we are very careful when we put lots together. One aspect I do when I'm doing lots, let's say it's a big lot, I will put something in there more valuable intentionally to drum up some interest in it. There's nothing wrong at all with putting something better in a lot to make it sell better. It's just a standardized lotting procedure. I do it all the time. So if I've got just a bunch of $2 or $3 cards, I may put a $30 or $40 or even a $50 card in that lot. Maybe even more than that if it's a bigger lot. And that will pump up the chances of it selling. Again, I've paid the same amount of money for any of the items that I get, so it really doesn't matter what I put into the lot value-wise. So that way I won't be stuck with other cards, and I'll still get more money than if I just sold the high dollar card in many cases. You've just got to address the lotting aspect of this on each case separately to see what is the best. Again, sometimes the best bet is to always list things individually if they're higher dollar, if they have a high potential of selling, and if you know what they are worth to begin with. And if you don't know what they're worth, I don't recommend listing them. Let's say you've got something that could be worth hundreds of dollars, but you haven't a clue, and you want to list it up as an auction. If you list it up as an auction, it's a rare or scarce item. There may only be one or two people on at any given point that may have any interest and even run into your item. So it may sell at the very bare bones opening bid. Now, if you've had it up for a while, or it's something that's worth a lot of money and you know that, you can put it up for a high dollar amount and let it sit there till the right person comes along. I don't like to just blow stuff out and hope it's going to go somewhere with most of the unique or vintage items that we sell. We always try to play the field and leave our options open. If I price it up high, I'm not going to undersell it. I'm not going to lose money that way. I can always take a lower price. I can always lower the price later. But if I start it off low and it sells, there's nothing I can do, and I'm already out any extra money I could have gained from those items. So when you're buying these big bulk lots or listing stuff and you're deciding on what to do with it, know what the best aspect is for your items. Don't let somebody come in and cherry pick your store and leave you with all the junk that just won't sell after they buy the best stuff. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
An adequate number of salespeople during busy hours ensures prompt service and prevents mass shoplifting. A uniformed guard patrolling your aisles is also a strong deterrent to stealing. Other shoplifting preventatives include elevated sales stations for complete surveillance and therefore maximum control over your merchandise. Adequate lighting and low displays permit greater visibility. Shoplifters develop patterns for stealing. For example, a shoplifter never keeps his eyes on the merchandise. He watches you and the customers around him, waiting for that moment of privacy when he can steal. Beware of loose coats. They can conceal countless types of items. Alertness on your part is the strongest preventative to shoplifting. Awareness of all customers. Knowledge of your merchandise. Serve all of your customers as quickly as possible Even if you are busy with one customer, immediately acknowledge new customers.
I'll be with you in a moment, sir.
To a customer, those words mean courtesy. To a shoplifter, it means, I'm watching you. Never leave your section unattended. And for customers who are just looking, keep them and the merchandise in sight.